Hello, welcome to our first Creative Circle conversation. And I am here with some of my Creative Circle friends. Got Margaret, Andrea, Sandy, Barbara, Terry, and Sue, and any of you lurkers and people here joining us in the conversation. I am so happy to have you here. These people are really special to me. They have been with me for a long time in the Facebook group. They've been coming to the YouTube lives, and they've been coming to the Zooms that we have a couple times a month. And that's where I get to see them face to face and put a face and a voice with their names. And now you guys get the chance. So I want them to go around and introduce themselves, and then we're going to just have a good time. Hi, Barbara and Philippa and Angela. So let's start with you, Margaret.
Okay, my name's Margaret Berry. I live in Nimbin, Australia. And I I'm Jill of all trades, master of none. And I don't have one overriding passion, but what I'm actually working on at the moment, two things. One is I've pulled out some quilts from a while back that I'm going to finish. And I'm also got a number of journals in varying stages of being put together.
Lovely. Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andrea Johnston. I'm from the UK, and yes, it is very late here, so I've had plenty of coffee. I'm really interested in traditional and modern textiles, and I really love playing with techniques and things. I get a complete freedom when I make things. So everything I make is unique and as traditional as possible. But also, I do try to use recycled materials. So if you see my work, it can be a little eclectic.
Sandy?
I'm Big Mama Sandy Moore, and I love making journals. And I know that they fall under the category of the junk journal. But for me, I like to call them a legacy journal, because when I'm making them, I see the family story. Like when you were sitting at the table as a child and you heard grandma tell a story and she's passed away and nobody wrote that story down, you can write that story down in that journal. And I love the journals where you can just pick them up and write anywhere and put the story in a pocket or wherever, and it becomes a part of a legacy. So that's where my heart is in the journals.
Barbara?
I have eclectic talents. This is my latest passion, I guess you could say. I just carved 2 stamps yesterday. I want to say shout out to Becky in the crowd. I do mixed media journaling. I do quilting. I'm working on some fabric grid journaling right now. Wherever I'm pulled next, that's what I'm doing.
Terry?
I'm Terry FITZPATRICK, and I am your Wednesday afternoon sidekick. I happen to be artistically ADD. I'm into everything. I just believe that art is something that helps us thrive in this world. And, we learn so much. There's history in art. There is expression in art. There is therapy in art. Art's good for the brain. It's just something that it would be nice if our culture more fully embraced the arts and accepted them as necessary for happy living. And I guess maybe that's what I'm passionate about. I just want people to know that they need art, whether they realize it or not, to be well-rounded and happy.
Yeah. Amen. Sue?
So I'm Sue Brown, and I'm currently living in the Pacific Northwest. My passion has been quilt making for over 2 decades, maybe approaching 3. But I'm also doing a lot of slow stitching these days, lots of small hand embroidered pieces. And then just piggybacking on what Terry said, a lot of what I make, I try to send out into the world so that people who don't have the ability to make for themselves at least can enjoy the products of my hands. So.
I love that. I love that each and every one of you is following your passion, and it's okay if our passions bounce around because, you know, we evolve as artists and as creative beings. It's okay to let go of one. And I actually did something really scary recently. I threw out frozen leaves from eco dyeing, you know, because it was time to say, you know, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm time to go on to something else.
Yeah.
All right, you guys
It's
feeling
kind of
brave?
like a gemstone, you know? The light shines on different facets at different times.
Exactly.
I
All right.
couldn't help but think, Susan, that you could have sent me your frozen leaves.
You know, anytime you want leaves, I will go ahead and collect some for
We
you.
just lost somebody.
I lost somebody?
Margaret is
Yeah.
Margaret. Oh.
Oh, Margaret's gone.
Oh.
Oh,
She might have had
I
a
hope she comes back.
connection thing. Hopefully she'll come back in.
Yeah.
So StreamYard can share my screen, and I want, oh my goodness.
Thank you, Lori.
Looks like, wait a minute here, of all this other stuff happening right now, just a second here. We're going to get over to this wheel.
Oh, there's the wheel.
Oh,
But I got to get,
she's got her
looks like
crazy
Margaret's back.
wheel
There we go.
going.
Margaret's back.
Oh, yay.
Welcome
Oh,
home.
good.
Oh, I went
All
to
right.
another studio for some reason.
Whoa.
Very strange. All right, you guys feeling brave? Here we go.
Spin away.
Motivation for when you have time, but you're not feeling it.
Mm.
Let's stop the screen share. There we go.
So are you asking how do we
Where
motivate
do you find the motivation? You have the time, okay? So you've come home from a day of work. You've got all your chores done. You don't have anything else on the agenda, and it's like, okay, I can sit down and work, and then nothing happens. What do you do? How do you find
My
the
workspace.
You clean?
Well, you got to clear out room to make room, you know. So if you're playing with your materials and you're cleaning up a space, and all of a sudden something, you know, you touch something, you pull a few things out, and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had that. Oh, I could do this with it. I was, you know, pretend you're throwing everything out, and then all of a sudden everything's important.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But if I'm not feeling it, I tend to go with the feeling. And what I've learned to do is that it must be time for me to take a break from what I usually do in the studio. And so I will go away and read a book or do a jigsaw puzzle or engross myself in a movie or something completely unrelated to what I've been doing or what might be down the road a little bit. Sometimes I need a complete refresher, you know, a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
How about you, Sandy?
Yeah.
Oh, it's never happened, so I don't know.
I know.
I wish I could be like that. I so wish I could be like that.
No, I am my little ADD girl right there. I have this desk of scraps and stuff, and I can just pick up something and start fiddling it with it. And then pretty soon, an hour or two later, I'm like, I can't believe I went down this rabbit hole. And so, yeah, I have been sitting here looking at this the whole time. My mind has been going, while we're talking, I can grab this.
Oh, God.
Saying while I'm listening, maybe they won't see me grab this. The whole time you guys are talking, I'm like ready and willing. And so I don't know what you're talking about, Susan.
Anybody else?
I like to look. Sorry.
No,
I
go on.
like to look at Pinterest and Instagram. And that way it reminds me of any projects that I've got to where I'm at a point where I didn't know where to go, and just try and give myself ideas. I still do my own original things, but it just reminds me of a technique or something without actually having to sit in my craft room.
Yeah. Margaret?
Yeah, I kind of do one of two things, really. I mean, I either do a bit like Sue and I go and do something completely different, like sit out on the veranda and knit a sock. And that kind of allows my brain to kind of think and wander. Or I just go into the studio and I do something mindless, like covering journal pages with gesso or scraps of paper or something of that nature. And then, usually you come across things and you think, well, that gives me an idea.
How about you, Barbara?
It doesn't happen for me very often either. Or if I'm not doing anything, I'm just watching videos and doing nothing. To me, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not going anywhere. I have no plan. I have no deadline.
Yeah.
But if I really feel stuck, I can pull out a Zentangle, and I still have probably about 24 tags that I wanted to make left over from Inktober Tangles, and I still have a bunch of Tangle studies I want to do, and there's just always something.
Yeah.
There's always something to play with.
Yeah.
I have a few comments from the crowd.
Okay.
Journal of Stitchery says that she sometimes will take time for a cup of coffee. Bonnie says that she would call Sandy. And Lori B says that she would get on Pinterest. Beck says a walk by a body of water always clears her cobwebs. And Sherry Habib says, yes, Becky, a walk can clear your mind.
Yeah. I think it's the reason I have so many projects going at once, because I'll get to one and it's like, I got the time to sit down and work on it. I don't want to. So then I grab something else and eventually they multiply like those darn rabbits.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that.
Yeah.
And before we go on, Philippa just sneaked under the fence, and she says that gardening and puttering helps her.
Oh, gardening is a good one.
Pottery.
Yeah. Puttering, yeah.
Garden
pottery.
Let's
go for another spin.
Are we spinning again?
Yeah, going to another spin. This doesn't make it easy for me.
Another thing, I also put at the end of my month in my little book here, I always have a page where I collect ideas that I might want to do.
That's a good idea.
And I don't want to lose them. I write them down every day, but then at the end of the month, if I have some left over, I haven't started, I'll just pick one of those.
I like that idea. All right, what do we got here? We say how to fit creative time into a busy day. Goodness.
That's not a question you should ask me, but I'll answer it. What I need to do is be able to fit housework into a busy day.
Yeah.
So a busy crafting day. So what I've done is I've made this really complex work chart, the tasks that I want to do in the house, and I have space for 3 months where I can tick them off when I do them and put the date I do them. Do you know how blank that damn thing is?
I think we're all like that, right?
What can I say? Life is short. Eat dessert first.
Yes.
Right.
And how many of us in this little group are still full-time employed outside the home? Andrea, are you?
I do work, but I'm not full-time.
Not full-time, but I honestly, it's more like, no, I'll get to the dishes. I mean, they're not going anywhere. I'll get to
exactly.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I've been cut loose.
Sorry, we're just having people pop in. So lovely to see Chris, who wasn't able to make it in with the live. We'll figure that out for the next time. Juliet, welcome. She spins yarn when she's not feeling creative. Chris takes photos of YouTube craft ideas, then refer back to them. Sherry knits or crochets. Yep, and Philippa says, that's my favorite expression, eat your pudding first.
Absolutely. It
Yeah,
just
let's
ain't
start
going
that.
anywhere.
Chores are always the last thing on the list, and I have an indulgent spouse, so I'm a piler. If there's a flat surface, there is stuff piled on top of it. We have a beautiful antique kitchen table that is very lovely for piling art stuff on, and we eat dinner on our lap. You know, I mean, the bathrooms get clean, the dishes get done, the laundry gets done, but otherwise,
Forget it.
yeah, I mean, if you have to choose the teeter-totter, right, between the clean house and the craft time,
No contest.
yeah.
No contest, no.
And I try to cram all of my non-creative stuff on a particular day or something. And you know, that's just the way it flies. I'll get all that stuff done, and then the next day is on to crafting again.
Yeah.
I try to
Yeah.
organise. Oh, sorry, Margaret. I've done it again. Go on.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, I mean, I do the dishes when we run out, basically. And when the dust under the bed starts giving me allergies, I clean it.
Yeah. Yeah. What she said.
Otherwise, I follow my nose.
Andrea?
I do try and have a routine if I'm doing detailed work, because I do need to sit at my craft desk for that. And I have like a day for housework and a day for crafting. But the other thing I do is in an evening, I always, if I've had no time, I do like to at least do 5-10 minutes just to chill. And I always keep like a little easy piece that I can just literally pick up when my husband and myself are watching television, so I can at least fit a little bit of crafting, because it just switches me off.
Yeah.
I do miss it if I can't craft a little bit every day.
Yeah.
Oh, my family can tell when I haven't been stitching or sewing for too long. I mean, they can tell.
When my kids were little and I was writing, they would put little notes under the door, you know, to me during the writing time. And then when I was grumpy, they would say, you need to go to your room. Go to your room, Mom. Go to your room, close the door. It's time to write.
If I'm making a video, I have a sign for the door. And what does it say? Busy as a bee. And so my husband knows, he goes past the door right quietly. He knows I don't want disturbing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Vicky was saying, Vicky is Messy Table Studio, said that she doodles. Juliet says craft time wins every time. Angela is here. We miss you too. You need to get back to our Zooms.
Yeah.
Oh, Philippa's plan is she does one major chore per day. Oh gosh, no. we have one day per week that we do some chores, not a whole day worth.
The second,
Sort
the
of.
sink
Kudos to
needs
her,
be
though.
cleaned. You know, I do that when I'm making my coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and your priorities change. I mean, if you have young kids, it's a little different. If you're having company over all the time, it's different. It's just me and my husband and the dog here. So our standards have adjusted over time.
Same here.
Yeah.
Trudy says, I definitely need to think of my creative time as a need for self-care. That's a great way to approach it, I think. It's certainly mental health for all of us. You know, we all know we get grumpy when we don't have our time. But I do know that I also get grumpy when I can't find the stuff that I want to. And I had a lovely phone chat with an artist friend today, and we were talking about the difficulty of letting go of things like leaves. She was also letting go of leaves and art supplies. But it's important because I can picture in my head, empty shelves with space to see all my fibers and things. And right now, the reason stuff's piled all over the place is there's no room on the shelves. So there is that, you know, the only cleaning I want to do is in the studio. There's something wrong with that.
Why?
Let's see if we can get another question, perhaps a little more challenging here.
Don't make it too hard.
Angela would like to know when our Zooms are. You might want to throw that out there for everybody.
So I don't have February scheduled, but you can go to my website and there is a link at the top in the menu that says Creative Circle. And on there will always be a link to the next Zooms.
That's susantaylorbrown.com.
Thank you. Thank you. There's got to be an easier way to do this share screen thing, but evidently I haven't figured it out yet.
No, it's the best diet you've ever put me on. I keep getting smaller.
Oh. Tips for working with color. This could be interesting. Who has some tips for working with color?
Go green or go home.
We have several quilters. Oh, I love the fireworks. How did that happen, Sandy? What did you do?
I guess I did this. I don't know, but I tell you what, that's your thing, Susan. You love
that. Was funny. I don't know where the fireworks came from, but that was really funny.
Maybe it was all the ooze.
Yeah, so for me, I look at the paint samples and put together those paint palettes and grab the different tones, and then I ignore them. I will spend an hour going through all this. Oh, these are all these beautiful combinations. And then I walk into the studio and there is one green that calls to me. And then I just start playing with that. But I do love the paint palettes because you can go up and down in the tones. You can stay just in one family. You can, do all those other things. What about our quilters? What do they do? Tips for color.
Well, there's always, if you have trouble with it, you can always go to the selvage edge of the fabric, and there's usually little dots or some kind of little that shows you all the shades that were used in the printing process, and then you just go to those colors, and it'll all blend.
I wish I had a piece of selvage ed fabric here to show that, because I remember my mind was blown years ago when I first saw that. Yeah, do you have one, Sue? Because
I think I might. I just have to pull it up.
It was like, they did it for you. And I for years, I never realized that there was that on the end of fabric. There we go. Let's see. I wonder if I can.
It's backwards in this.
That almost
backwards.
Like Kim Holt's palette.
So you can see the little things along the edge line. There you go. By your right hand. If you scoot it. Yeah, there we go. Those are all the colors that are used on the fabric. And that's one way, if you've got fabric, to put together a color palette for your project. Anybody else have some tips for working with colors?
I do. I have on Pinterest, I have a page that, what do they call them there? Anyways, a board just for palettes. And I collect the palettes that have little pictures on them, of sunsets or succulents or flowers. And they have those little, it'll have the picture on one side, and it'll have all the different colors that you can, little squares of color, like the paint things that correlate to that picture. And if I see a picture that, it's like, oh, that's gorgeous colors, I'll look at the different colors down the side of it and see if they also motivate me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry.
Go on.
No, go ahead, Margaret.
For me, it's mostly intuitive.
Yeah, me too.
I've got a very intuitive sense of color. But sometimes I see something like it might be a jacket or a painting or a magazine image, or I watch somebody doing something on YouTube and I just think, oh, that's an interesting combination, and I'll play with that. But mostly it's you know, it's those colours that really resonate with me.
Yeah.
We've got a new viewer on here named Jory, and she says, I've just found this. I've just stumbled on this. And is this a regular thing or just spontaneous?
Yep. And it is going to be a more regular thing if people are liking it. You have to let us know in the comments. Are you having a good time? Do you want to get to know more people in our creative circle? Because if so, let me know. And I will happily do this every so often and bring on 4 or 5 people so that we can have a conversation and you guys can put faces and voices with the names. I just think it's it seems to connect us a little stronger each time you see somebody face to face and you hear their voice, and then you see their words on the screen and you hear their voice in your head.
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
no.
a couple of other comments color wise. Aunt Beck likes to grab a magazine image and get the colors from there.
I like that too.
Let's see. Angela says, I think of someone who likes a color I struggle with and I can get inspired to make something that way. Trudy says, don't overthink it. Philippa says, the more the merrier.
Yep.
Juliet likes to pull colorways off of Pinterest. Sherry said, I will also do a diamond painting or a stitch kit where the colors are chosen for me. Journal of Stitchery says, first I pick what is my basic theme or material. Second, ribbon and laces, thread that ties them together.
I
So
have
we have-
many ways that I do color, but I do find that keeping a list of palettes keeps you from getting stuck sometimes. Or if you got like 2 or 3 colors you want to work with, but you want a 4th one, and you're not sure what it is, it's a great way to stimulate.
I think you need to experiment because there are some people that have a natural intuitive feeling for it. But I do think, like, I can pull out 3 greens, but they're not, all greens go together except not. And for me, what I have to go on is not that I saw these 3 greens in a palette, because I could have pulled them off a colorway from some interior decorating magazine. But when I look at them, if it makes me go, I'm not going to have a good time stitching with them. So then it's going to show up in the work. So then I have to go find something else. So for me, it's like a starting point, but I have to keep playing with it until it resonates with me.
Yeah.
And Andrea had a comment that she was going to make.
Yes, please.
Quite often, if I'm out and I see a fabric, I like the colours of the fabric. I'll take a picture of it, and then I've got this book with all these different colours, stroke patterns in, and it just influences me and inspires me at a later date to go back to that, because quite often people put colours together that I wouldn't dream of.
Yeah.
And they look good, but it's like, if I'm not a quilter, so that I very rarely get the is it the salvage on the fabric. So I wouldn't see them. My way of doing that would be literally taking a picture of the fabric.
I like that.
In a little folder.
Maybe next time you can take a picture of the selvage edge.
I work with scraps. I don't get big pieces. Well, I try not to because they take too much room up.
They do.
I like Philippa's comment. She mainly 2 colors and then a zinger. You need that zinger.
Yeah, I like that plan too.
Yeah, I do that too.
Trudy says she uses
And
a
what
color
Becky-
wheel. Go ahead.
What Becky suggested of finding a magazine, I did that rather than getting the Pantone cards or anything like that to play with. I just pick a magazine advertisement because somebody has thought very carefully about what colors they have in there. And then I'll just pop little squares out of that advertisement and play with paints to go with those. And
So here's a question.
If I don't have an idea that I want to do.
So somebody asked the question, what's your advice on working with a color you're not fond of?
Avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, why are you having to work with a color you're not fond of? I mean, I tried. I really tried to do pink. I did.
Yeah, you did.
Can't do it. I
Mix it with red or mix it with orange.
Yeah, I mean, you can go grab a complementary color and see if you can tone it down to something you can tolerate. But anybody else?
Or use it as that zinger.
You
Yeah.
know, when you're doing custom journals like you do, Sandy, sometimes somebody wants a color that you aren't fond of. My personal color that I used to have such a hard time with was yellow. But if you here, kudos to Pinterest. What can I say? Just if you just flip through pictures, whether it's a magazine or Pinterest or even go out for a walk through a department store or something, you can, if somebody had ordered, say, we're going to go with the journal for right now, with lots of yellow in it. I think what I would do was try to find pictures or clothing or something that had lots of yellow that was very striking and pretty, regardless of my personal taste. And I think I would start with whatever combination was in that thing that made me feel good. Maybe it had pink and green with it. I wouldn't normally have associated pink and green with yellow. But because I had found a picture or a piece of clothing or something that actually made me feel good, that had lots of yellow in it, I would use it as a base to for my theme.
I like that. That's a really good suggestion. And along that same line, Trudy wants to know, do you think we tend to be drawn to specific colors that may become our signature colors?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not green, right?
Not green.
And it can be different colors at different points in our life. Yes.
Yeah.
Margaret?
I kind of like all colours.
Yeah.
There are some colours I don't like a lot of all at once, but then I just use bits of it or variations of it, and add sort of complementary colours with it, and the sort of the what do you call them, the offshoot colours from it. I mean, like if I'm using
Tints
brown, say, I might use orange,
or hues.
and I might use blue, and as a sort of a complementary colour, sort of. And I just don't choose to use a lot of the same colour if it's not one of my favourites. But I do use all colours. Just depends what combinations there is with other colours.
Barbara, you do a lot of work in black and white. And do you find, are you drawn to the black and white, or is it because of the Zentangle? Are you drawn to fill it in with color afterwards?
Not really. No, I really love black and white. Like this is the little one of the stamp I carved.
I love it.
I just like pattern, I think. I like pattern. I like the play of light and dark, and I do it in the tone tan book, so I have the highlights of white and the low lights of graphite to shade things. I like that a lot. But then I love color. I mean, my favorite colors, here's my one of them.
Verdant green.
Yeah.
I find when I'm working in one color, obviously it's usually my greens and my earth tones, and then I'm wanting to go to another project. Like I'm starting to envision the seascapes that I want to work on now. So now I'm thinking, okay, sea colors and blues and neutrals. It's not a quick process for me to make that color shift. I have to work my way into it. I have to look at my boards on Pinterest. I need to pull out the fibers, and I've had 3 seascapes laid out on a desk in my studio with fibers pulled out, and I just go, and it's like, I'm not quite there yet. What is that, Terry?
Well, seascapes can include green.
Yes.
Trouble
that seaweed.
when I was going through my building my stash phase, which hasn't stopped yet, I just keep pulling blues, and you would think that I would be making all these things with blues. I have more blue threads than I do green. But I also think
No way.
I have like 3 shelves of blue of actual just stitching, not counting all the other fibers, but for stitching my yarns of blue, and I have like 2 of green. I'm like, but I think they don't dye as much variety in the greens as they do in the blues, because I'm usually buying hand-dyed yarns.
We are attracted to different colors for different purposes. If you notice, there are times in your life where your wardrobe can be colors that, I mean, like Susan, we hardly see you wear green. You know,
No, that's
so
right.
our clothing can be one color. Our choice of cars can be another color. You know, the colors we do our fingernails can be a totally different hue. Different colors fulfill different needs in our creative process, and we're not we're as we change or get in different moods or whatever, our color spectrum changes. I used to wear red, black, and white out all the time, and I found out that red is actually a color that says to everyone else, this is my protection shield. You know, so if you find yourself using a, I mean, yeah, they're different. If you find yourself using a particular color for a particular reason, you may want to look into that and find why it inspires you. If you like blue but you're not using it, find out what part of you it appeals to. Find out what the psychological ties in color spectrum are tied to blue. And you may find out that maybe blue is, I'm just pulling something out of the air, related to truth, or you know, something a quality that you support, versus actually working with it. That color you appeal to because it speaks to you on a different level.
Yeah, good point. Disclaimer, I would definitely wear more green if I could find it in my size, but so far I haven't found a lot of green. I'm always looking. Barbara?
Read what Trudy said about orange.
Yeah, she said, the seasons of our life, I hated orange because I work at a prison, but now I love orange because I adore sunrises and sunsets. I think this is so true. We have to really think about, and what Terry said is valuable too. You know, perhaps we might even have a subconscious connection to something in our childhood that we don't even realize. I don't like pastel colors, but I think I had a lot of pastel clothes as a kid. And for whatever reason, it's like, no, I don't like, I want the bright colors. I want strong colors. Now, I don't know what the lighter ones signify to me.
You know, with the blue, maybe somebody in your life's favorite color was blue.
Maybe. I should ask my husband.
There's so many different reasons.
Andrea,
I have you as a jewel tone person. Pardon me?
I just was wondering if anybody else had anything. What were you saying, Barbara?
I said I would pick you as a jewel toned person.
Well, remember when we did years ago, some of you might remember, like the color we had to have, and definitely the jewel tones.
I agree with what Terry says, because unfortunately my mum's not here now, but blue was her favourite colour. And for me, blue is a special colour now. I do have an association with it. And I never thought about it before, but every time I think of blue, I think of my mum.
Oh, wow. Isn't that sweet?
But it's weird. How can it not dawn on me sooner? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I never, if you had asked me 20 years ago if my favorite color was green, I would have said no. I don't even know that I would have said I had a favorite color. But when I looked at pictures over the years, all my important events in my life, I was wearing green.
I'll be darned.
Ooh.
And it was like, wow, I had no idea that, when I looked even back to the dress I wore to the junior prom was green.
Oh my gosh.
So it's interesting how that kind of stuff connects with us. But I think it's nature for me. I think for me, it is green is my connection to nature. I don't garden much anymore. But it is that idea of rebirth and spring and new growth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's give ourselves another spin because I love seeing what these
In
things
a
come up
way.
with. And we're gonna need new questions. You guys are gonna have to give us new questions to ask.
Oh no.
How to
Anybody out
start
there in the audience,
something
if you
new.
have a question you want to send in,
Yes.
and
How to start something new.
Hmm.
How to start something new?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to
I don't
share
think
the
that's
screen.
a problem.
I just
I
went
think
over and
it's finishing the old. It's a problem for a lot of people.
And it's keeping from starting something new.
Well, does
How
anybody
many
have?
UFOs do we all have?
Oh,
My God.
not enough fingers to count them all.
I know. No.
Does anybody have a process of something they go through when they're going to start a new project? Sandy, what do you do when you're going to start a new project, a new journal? What's your process?
I'm going to start one in a couple of days. And it's first I have to pick the theme. And so it's going to be with the peacocks. And then we'll look at the peacocks and decide what is the feeling, if it's going to be vintage or modern, which of course it'll be vintage. And so then I kind of look at what is the size, what is the book, am I going to get a book or am I going to make it from scratch? And so, but all of that starts with the foundational picture because I want the story to flow all the way through. And so at first it's all about what is the story and what is the journal going to be used for? Is it just going to be more of a sit on the coffee table or is someone going to use it to write in? Which I pray that they're going to be writing in it because that's all about the legacy for me. So I want to give it life. So from that conception of the child to the birth, I'm preparing the nursery, I'm getting everything ready for it. And I want, when it goes to its happy new home, I want it to be ready to go and do its job.
So do you make a lot of, excuse me, I feel like I have a sneeze coming. Do you make a lot of your stuff up ahead of time?
No.
Or do you make it as you go?
I know a lot of people mass make and then they go and get in their stash, got a bunch of tags or something already made up. And for me, I can spend a day mass making and never ever use those items because to look at the page, none of those items fit the story, the thread line. And so it's just easier for me to work on a journal and feel the pages come alive.
Make it up as you go along.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this question is for Sandy specifically or if it's for all of us. But it says, do you create with the hope that someone loves your creation? Or do you create to your own love, hoping that someone loves the sorry.
Or do you create your own love for the creation? So
Right.
I think that's a good one for all of us.
Yeah.
Let's come back to that. I'd like to hear about starting new projects, though. Like Sue, if you're doing a quilt, how do you start a new quilt? Where do you start from?
It sort of depends. Sometimes if I know that there's a specific need and there will be requirements or dimensions or whatever attached to that need, then I will work to those parameters. Other times I might come across, I might feel like it's time to work with my scraps. And so I just start cutting scrap fabrics and then I'll decide, well, what can I do with this size patch? And I'll use that as a jumping off point. I mean, it changes with every project. I don't have a set way of starting anything. I don't think. I'd be surprised to learn it if I do have one.
What about you, Andrea?
If I'm doing freeform embroidery, I'll just pick up whatever I've got and then sort of make the colours fit. But if I'm going down the historic real detailed lines that I do, I tend to get a picture in my head and an idea of the colours. Then I worry about the materials, but I'm not frightened to sort of veer off a little bit if I find that, you know, perhaps it doesn't work in a certain way. It usually will be some version of what I saw originally, but I'm not too rigid to it, because if I get halfway through and struggle to get materials, I'd just put it on one side and not finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, how about you? Do you have any kind of a process when you start
I
something?
was just reading Vicky's comment that she starts by cleaning off her desk from the last project. You know, I've got about 6 things going at once, and the thing I started recently was that 4 5.5 squares fabric, making a grid. So I've got 4 fabric pieces that I put other fabric pieces on in my style of grid journaling, kind of, which I've been really enjoying a lot in my journals with paint. And so starting that project, I said, okay, I'm going to get this to be a size I can handle, a method I can handle, and I'm going to approach it in what I already know. So that's how I started that project. And so far, I think that's worked for me on that project. I'm going to like that when it's done.
Sounds good.
Can I just say something relative to what I think you said, it was Trudy said, you know what? Sometimes I find if I clean up my studio too much, it stops me from working.
Yeah.
If it's too, I don't know if I don't want to mess it up, or it's just like my brain just goes empty because there's no input. I need a degree of chaos to work from, apparently.
There you go.
I can relate to that. So let's think about Trudy's question, which is, do you create with the hope that someone is going to love your creation, or do you create your own love for the creation, create to your own love for the creation? And I'm not quite sure, Trudy, if you could clarify a little bit. Do you mean, are we creating just willy-nilly, or are we trying to fall in love with the project as we create it? I'm a little confused. If somebody else maybe.
I wonder if she's asking, do we create to please somebody else, or do we create to please ourselves?
That was the way I was interpreting it. And I want to make sure that that's what she meant.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any thoughts along that?
I definitely create for myself.
I create with the hope that other people will enjoy it, but I'm trying to learn how to create for my own pleasure at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with my ephemera, when I'm creating, I think of an audience, you know, that I'm trying to please a certain amount or percentage of the populace in order to attract them to my Etsy shop. Mm-hmm. But I rarely will go outside my comfort zone for that purpose. I always find a niche that I particularly love that would be possibly appealing. And when I'm painting, it has to come from within me. I can't people please when I'm painting. It's if I don't feel it, it ain't happening.
Yeah. Andrea?
I create for myself, but part of what I do is, again, there's a lot of researching in a lot of the sewing, the embroidery, and the techniques that I try and recreate, because I do work very traditionally if I can. So I make the things to learn something, and then if they become something, that's good. If I make something to please somebody, I'm veering off my learning curve.
Yeah. And Sandy, now you're in a funny position, because if you're creating a journal commission, you're creating for somebody else, and that's different. But how are you creating a legacy journal of your heart that's going to go to somebody else's heart?
Well, I know, like the Dragonfly journal that I made, that I knew what she wanted, but she gave me free reign to birth it from my heart, because she liked art. She liked the way I did things. So I didn't have to worry about so much pleasing her. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like,
It does.
I don't send a product out to anybody without it representing my heart, and that when it's done, it's like when you wrote books and you put the end on the end of it. You put the end on it, not your editor or somebody else. You said, yes, this is Susan's book that Susan wrote. And that's the same with my journals. When I send them out, I hope and pray that everybody who gets one, that they love it and that it will represent them well, because it's all about their story now that they're going to write in it, and their ephemera they're going to add into it. But what I want to give them is my 100% best. And so I don't worry about it going out there and being sold that, oh, was it good enough? It was everything I could do. I will send it with 100% of my.
It's been interesting comments here. Aunt Beck says, I generally create with someone in mind, as I rarely keep what I make. And Juliet says, I do both. Create some things that I know will sell, but mostly I create my vision and hope it sells. Taylor said, I think it would be a bit of both. For me, a journal isn't done until I'm pleased with it, but I hope that whoever I made it for loves it as well. And I think, for those of us that sell our work, it's a balancing act, because you always, once you sell your piece of something that you've created, yourself, then suddenly you have that market in mind. You can't help it. It's there. And you wonder, okay, is somebody going to want to buy this? But I think if we forget to start from our heart and remember that on the journey, then you just become an assembly line. And that creates there's totally a market for that, for people that are, handcrafting a bunch of, small things that they can turn out fast, because there are an audience for that. But for those of us that have a different journey, like me, we have to start from the heart. I mean, all of us have abandoned projects. And if we go back and take a look at them, maybe it's because we weren't doing them for the right reasons. We're trying to force a color, force a style, force something that's not into us. Our heart's not there.
Yeah. You don't approach Monet and ask him to do a Picasso.
Exactly.
Especially since they're both dead.
All right. I want to be respectful of time. So how about, can we each give one piece of advice? Oh, we have Margaret back. I know she's got just a second here. I think she's back.
Good.
She is coming back, I hope. We can ask Margaret a couple questions. She's able to join us. Sometimes the internet just really does not cooperate when we want to gather with friends, If you do have any last minute questions for us, please put them down in the comments and we'll try to address them. But I would love if we could give one piece of advice to any creatives that are watching this now or later. What piece of wisdom would you share with them? And that's asking a lot, I know, because I didn't prep you guys on anything like that. So while you're thinking, I will say, just going along with what we were just talking about, we have to follow our hearts. We have got to do the creative work that drives us, whether we're doing it for something to sell, if we're doing it for our mental health. If somebody told me to be mentally healthy, I had to do Zentangles, it would not bring me the joy that it is bringing Barbara, because my hand shakes when I'm doing that. And I stress and I see the line, and it does not help my mental health at all. It stresses me out.
Yep.
If somebody told me
Mhm.
that I had to paint like Terry does, the joy that she gets as her brush flies across the page, I would say, no, this is not joy for me. If I had to do precision piecing like Sue does with her quilts, I would say, heck no, that is Stressville for me. I am not having a good time. My sewing machine has not been out for a year and a half, have not even opened it up. And we all have got these areas that if you prod them, they're not going to bring joy. But you have these other areas, if you step into them, you're going to shine. You're going to, as you bloom, as you step into the stuff that brings you joy, it radiates. And when it radiates, you know, it touches Barbara, it touches Andrea, it touches Sandy, it touches Terry, it touches Sue. And then it radiates for them. And it just, this is our creative circle. This is what builds it. You know, so that's my advice. And my dog agrees. Follow the joy. So Terry, what?
I have two. Explore and try things until you find your bliss.
Yes.
When you find your bliss, create. Create from the heart. Create regardless of whether you have to do it in secret or you can do it in public. You know, do it until your heart is full.
Oh,
Now, number two, do not listen to critics.
Yes.
If you want to listen to a critic so that you can improve, if someone is critiquing you in your best interest, you may want to listen, but do not let anyone stomp all over you. You
Yes.
create for your heart, your pleasure. There will be people who will appreciate it. There will be people who don't. Do not let them stop.
Margaret's back again.
Big
Yay.
warm hugs to you, dear. That's my piece.
I will answer that question by just saying that I believe of my childhood that I took myself way too seriously or was too strongly criticized. And so I quit doing art and I quit singing and I quit doing all the fun stuff. And since I've retired, especially, but really about 10 years before I retired from work, it was really just time to play.
Yes.
It's time to play. And so Becky wrote up there about letting your inner artistic child loose again. I never knew what my inner artistic child was.
Yeah.
And now I still don't exactly know. I couldn't articulate it, but I can come into my studio and I'm in the mood for a color, or I can come in and I'm in the mood for tidy black lines that are very tiny.
Yeah.
Or I'm in the mood for a quilt. I mean, I collected a favorite fabric for years, all of my quilting years, called fossil ferns. And I finally got around to making a quilt of fossil ferns, which is my favorite quilt.
Oh.
So it's play. It's all play.
Right.
It's all play. I used to not like to iron. I didn't used to like to use my sewing machine. I didn't like to make stuff on my sewing machine. But then I learned how to quilt. And now ironing, it's just a tool. The sewing machine, it's just a tool. And I love my tools. They're fun.
I love that.
Doesn't mean you iron your clothes.
No.
No.
Oh, I don't have any clothes that want ironing.
No, and I would say, especially if there are any of the lurkers or anybody in chat who they still have children at home or they're still working full time, just honor the season of life that you are in right now. If all you can do is 5 minutes of crafting once a week or something like that, well, at least do that, but don't beat yourself up because you can't do more. Yeah. Don't look around you and at what everybody else is doing or how much they're producing. Try to honor the period of life in which you are now, and your time will come when you will have maybe more time or more money or whatever, but just be patient and work with what you've got right now.
That's
like
very
that.
good advice, Sue.
Yep.
Margaret, when you were gone, we were all talking about any last minute advice we might give people. Did you have any advice you might want to leave with creatives?
Well, I think I'd certainly echo what Sue just said. And yeah, just enjoy what you have. I mean, if you have children, I know they can be bloody annoying sometimes, but truly, they will soon enough, they will be gone and you will miss them,
Yeah.
you know, and it is a magic time in many, many ways. And, you know, your time will come.
Yeah.
And you know, and also like whatever craft fits into the season of life that you are in. Maybe it's knitting, maybe it's, you know, making creative clothes for small children, or, you know, you can be creative in the things that you need to do for practical purposes. That's important too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Andrea, did you have any advice you wanted to share?
I agree with what everybody said, and certainly to create from the heart. But also, I mean, if you have got the time and, you know, you have the wish to do it, don't be frightened. Don't be put off. Go for it, even if you just work for yourself, because you might surprise yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy?
I believe that art inspires art. And so when you're working on something and somebody grabs your idea and they're then running with it, you've inspired them.
Mm.
Don't then say, wait a minute, that was my project, and get all jealous. Because you started doing because you were inspired by somebody. And this is about the joy of art. The reason why we have a creative circle like this is that we encourage each other. And I hope that those who have been listening saw that of this collective of women that are just here tonight, we represent just a tiny little thumbnail of the whole group.
Yeah.
And there are such a vast array of art projects that they do. And each one of us inspires each other, whether it's color or texture or something. Zentangles inspires somebody to then add some black and white to now a totally different page. And Susan's texture landscapes will inspire somebody else to find pictures in a magazine. And I just hate it when people become so exclusive of their work that they don't embrace the community. That it's bigger than us, and it's so nurturing, and it's a terrible thing to become selfish with your art.
I love that.
Before we sign off on that note, Sandy, and I really love that note, I would like, because we don't, you know, Susan does, and well, anyways, what I want to do is all of you who are listening and watching us, I want to invite you to possibly participate in our Zoom where we meet and inspire each other. That's what we do. We hold each other's hand and we, you know, just we help each other through hard times. If somebody needs help spitting, you know, their brain, or they've been trying a technique that's not working for them, we all pitch in and we give ideas. That's what we do during our Zooms. They're not just, they're not all fluff. We share, we love, and we help create with inspiration in each other.
And we have a bloody good laugh at the same time.
And we do. So there are a lot of ways to connect with us. This is, as they said, just a small sampling of the wonderful women and men. We do have some men involved in our creative circle. And to me, the creative circle actually started with my live streams. We do have a Facebook group, but not everybody's active on Facebook, and you don't have to be. You don't have to come to the lives. You don't have to come to the Zooms. It's this getting to know people that have like-minded thoughts about being a creative person. Whether you sell your art or you make your art and let it pile up in the garage, it doesn't matter. Whether you are a cake decorator or a stitcher or a painter or a mixed media artist or a knitter, it doesn't matter. We are all creating every day in ways maybe that you're not even realizing. So we love to grow the creative circle, and I don't want to miss out. I'm sorry, Jory asked a question and we didn't get to it. She wanted to know if we had any tips on finishing projects, because she's great at starting. But I will, let me say one thing before you guys can think about any answers.
Join the group.
There are links down in the description box. I did not put the link on the Facebook group, believe it or not. I don't think that's in there, but you can ping me. You can go visit all these people at their YouTube channels, their Etsy shops, or Instagrams, what have you. Follow people, get to know them, ask them questions. And if you like this kind of a format and you want to be a part of doing a creative circle conversation, let me know. I will do them once a month. If there is interest, you can message me and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. And I will put you on the list, and we will take turns and rotate through and bring different people in here. But so Jory doesn't walk away feeling like she didn't get addressed. Any tips on?
Well, let me say something to Jory. I just want to tell you that I do occasionally finish things. I did finish a book in December that I started in 2015.
Good for you.
So
Yeah, well,
I only had 2
quilts
pages
that
left to do in it.
Oh, wow.
You know what? I think I have a little bit of an idea. Jory, when it comes to finishing something, I like lists. And I don't worry about what's next on my projects, because I've always got a list to pick from. Think about how you would feel if that project was done. Mm-hmm. And write down a list of all the different feelings that would come up or be best served if the project was done. And I bet you'll motivate yourself.
That's good. That's good.
I love that. And I think finishing is also remembering why you started sometimes.
Yes.
You know, I find it much easier now to leave projects unfinished, because sometimes I start something just to experiment with a technique, and it's like, okay, I decided I don't like that. I don't need to do anymore, or I don't feel obligated to finish this. It's okay to let projects go. Mm-hmm. You know, unless you are doing open heart surgery or brain surgery, you kind of have to finish those. But otherwise, you know, let it go. Don't stress over it. Thank you for all the kind words I'm seeing in here. Jory says, just a lovely idea. Art therapy for a person of a certain age. Just wish I didn't have to have the time. Or I didn't have to have it all the time. I'm not sure. Juliet says, I'm a felter and just discovered Susan's textural embroidery. You totally inspired me to incorporate it into my needle felting. It definitely has rekindled my passion. Glad to hear that. Oh, retire when you have the time. Got it, Jory. Trudy's been sick, and now I'm on the mend. Plan on joining the Zooms, and she said it was just what she needed. Taylor said it was just what she needed to cheer her up today. Good. It's been wonderful. Exactly what I needed. You guys are awesome. People in the chat, people that come on here live with me. You are all brave creatives putting yourselves out there every day. And thank you for walking this creative path with me and for me, because you do it for me when I ask you. And I know that is a gift that you give to me. And I am very grateful. Mm-hmm. So do message me if you want to be a part of the next one of these conversations. Big group hug. Let us know in the comments what you think, and come join us in the Facebook group if you are on Facebook, or come to the lives tomorrow. I'll be live tomorrow at noon. Okay? Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yes, thanks for coming and chatting.
Yeah.